Welcome to the Michigan Football Report, ladies and gentlemen. It is Saturday, August 4th, 4 weeks to go till Michigan football starts Saturday night, September 1st at Notre Dame in South Bend. It is a night game. I've got 21 mega rumors for you on this Saturday. Michigan started fall practice yesterday on Friday. Rumor number one, the biggest story in all of college football right now. You think I'm talking Urban Meyer? Jim Harbaugh and Chicken Gate. So I am giving this one, ladies and gentlemen, F-A-C-K. Jim Harbaugh says no eating chicken. So if you've been living under a rock for the past 3 or 4 days, here is the story. Wilton Speight, transferred to UCLA, is going to vie for the starting quarterback gig there. He basically said, well, give us a story of Jim Harbaugh. What's Jim Harbaugh like? And he said, Harbaugh came up to me right when he became coach, saw me eating chicken, and he said, hey, no, don't eat chicken anymore. Eat red meat. He thinks chicken, this is what Speight said, he thinks chicken is some type of sickness injected its way into the human population when people begin eating white meats instead of beef and pork. So no chicken, according to Jim Harbaugh. A lot of people came after Speight and said, hey, man, you're the starting quarterback here for a year and a half. Harbaugh gave you a shot when few others would. Why are you taking shots at Harbaugh? Sounds like you're trying to throw him under the bus. He says, for the record, the story I shared was done as positive memory. As crazy as it may sound, it was something I bought into because we followed the man. The man all love. So he's saying all love to Jim Harbaugh. That is Wilton Speight coming at Michigan football. He is now the UCLA quarterback. He's going to vie for the starting job there. UCLA started practice this week as well. Rumor number 2, ladies and gentlemen, is Colin Cowherd, is Doug Gottlieb, some of these national radio hosts, are they coming to the defense of Jim Harbaugh after he was called out by national media for his 1-5 record against Ohio State and Michigan State last week? Here is what Colin Cowherd had to say a couple days ago about Jim Harbaugh.
So, in review, crazy Jim Harbaugh, who everybody thinks is underachieving. 2 plays in his career, last-second plays, against rivals, bowl teams, good teams, Michigan State, Ohio State. Okay? Now at Michigan, he's 28-11 in overall, 8-8 in conference, but he's been bad against the rivals, right? 1-5. He's come within 1 punt play his first year of being 11-2. 1 play against the rival. He's come another play, second year overtime to Ohio State from being 11-1 and going to the playoff. Folks, can we have a little context? He took over a mess. They were 6-10 the previous 2 years in the Big Ten and been routed 7 times. Harbaugh, last year the quarterback situation unraveled and they were bad in the last month. It happens.
So there you go, folks. Colin Cowherd, one of the great radio hosts of all time in sports radio, defending Jim Harbaugh. Doug Gottlieb, another Fox Sports guy, formerly at that other network, says, hey, Jim Harbaugh, he's a couple plays away from being 3-3, couple of plays away from being in the playoff in year 2. Again, when he against Ohio State in 2016, JT was short. So Harbaugh getting some love from the national guys. All right, on to rumor number 3. This is a Chat Sports exclusive on this one. Want to kind of talk about where this story came from. So in 2014, when Jim Harbaugh was clear he wasn't going to be the coach of the 49ers, a lot of rumors that Stephen Ross of Ross Business School, the great contributor to the Michigan football program, Michigan Athletic Department, Michigan Business School named after him, was going to come after Harbaugh to be the Dolphins coach. He is the owner of the Miami Dolphins, and some Michigan fans were saying, oh, well, he's got to support Michigan. He can't go over and steal Harbaugh. Apparently, Harbaugh and Stephen Ross talked throughout the summer of 2013 into the 2013 season. Brady Hoke's 3rd season with Michigan, Jim Harbaugh's 3rd season, of course, with the San Francisco 49ers coming off of a Super Bowl appearance. And he said, hey, Steven, no matter what happens here, no matter what I do in the future, I want my next coaching job, if it's not at the 49ers, to be with the University of Michigan. So this is F-A. I'm giving 3 Harbaugh heads in this one, I guess. I thought I had it as F-A-C-K. Nevertheless, we didn't talk to Ross or Harbaugh specifically, so I'm going to give this one a 3 Harbaugh head. But I have had this information for several years, got a chance to talk to somebody about it just in the past week, so wanted to bring it back to the fruition. So when people say, hey, Harbaugh might go back to the NFL, he's told NFL owners, most notably Stephen Ross, the famous Michigan alum who owns the Dolphins, that he wanted to go back to college eventually. He didn't know it would come after the 2014 season. At that point, Brady Hoke wasn't certainly on the hot seats in 2013, early on at least. And so Jim Harbaugh had in his mind that his next job after 49ers was going to be Michigan. We give that one a 3 Harbaugh heads, but it's really about a 3.5 Harbaugh heads. We just haven't figured out how to slice the Harbaugh head in half to make it viable for the screen. So you get a 3 Harbaugh head in that one. All right, big time rumor. I like this one. I like this a lot better than the one we had last week. It is appearing very likely that the Wisconsin game, not another game that I told you before, will actually be a night game. So we're giving this one 3 Harbaugh heads. I really like the source that I got on this story that said the TV networks, the Big Ten Network, ESPN, ABC, and Fox, who all are vying for the best Big Ten games, trying to line up in their slots where they get to choose. I get first choice, you get second choice. They did not like the idea of Michigan maybe hosting a couple other teams as night games. They want the best Michigan home games to be the night games, especially in October and September and early November. And so it sounds very likely that it's going to be the Wisconsin game, and it is not going to be another game I recently told you about. Michigan has had, a tough time against Wisconsin recently. Going back 10 years, they played Wisconsin 5 times in that other division when the Big Ten split up. A 2-3 record versus Wisconsin since 2008. We all remember that 08 game when Rich Rodriguez had to come roaring back from double digits down in the fourth quarter to win that one. Michigan had a chance last year, was up in Wisconsin late in the third quarter. Brandon Peters goes down. Michigan doesn't score again, loses 24-10. Michigan's history with night games started off with a bang back in 2011 with that Notre Dame game. Has had some other closer games, a win against Penn State, lost to Michigan State this past year, and a pretty embarrassing offensive performance. Came back a few weeks later, beat Minnesota when Karan Higdon and Chris Evans went off on the ground. So that is the story there. 3 Harbaugh heads. Wisconsin will be a night game. What are these Harbaugh heads, you ask? Well, if we give something 0 Harbaugh heads, that is totally false. Fake news. 1 Harbaugh head, small shred of truth. 2 Harbaugh heads. People are talking 50-50. It's a rumor. 3 Harbaugh heads, pretty likely it's going to happen. If we give it the 4 Harbaugh heads, ladies and gentlemen, that means it is F-A-C-K. That is how Jim Harbaugh spells it. That is how we spell it here at the Michigan Football Report by Chat Sports, the most watched Michigan football program in America. Rumor number 5, no Nebraska night game. So I reported on this one previous show that, hey, it looks like Michael Spath from WTKA saying, hey, his sources say Nebraska is going to be a night game. I don't think Spath is reporting fake news or anything, but I am saying now 3 Harbaugh heads that Nebraska will not be a night game, but I'm not certain on this one just yet. Why would Spath put out maybe incorrect information? I believe Michigan gave the networks their preference. It was Nebraska, it was Penn State, spread them out a little bit. I believe what's the story is what's coming down is that the networks came back to Michigan and said, look, we want the Wisconsin game. That could be a matchup of top 5 teams, top 8 teams, undefeated teams potentially. That's the night game that we want. And so from what I kind of ascertained in the past week, Wisconsin is the preference to be night game by the networks. Nebraska is now pushed back. Now, Michigan could host both of them as a night game, but that's going to be at their preference. They're not required to host those as night games. Asking you guys, which team would you rather play at night? I want to know, would you rather play a night game against Nebraska? Would you rather play a night game against Wisconsin? Type W for Wisconsin, type N for Nebraska. You know me, it is Wisconsin. I want the best games against the highest profile team. Wisconsin, I think, is one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the country in 2018. James, how do you look so good on these shows? Someone called me Handsome James in my Twitter DMs the other day. I might embrace that as my new comment. It's because of Mizzen and Main. These are the best dress shirts known to man's performance fabrics. I can go run, jog in these bad boys, take off my pants, put on shorts. Mizzen and Main. It feels like it just feels like athletic wear. I'm wearing it to work, wearing it on the Michigan Football Report, the #1 Michigan football program. Mizzen and Main, comfortable.af is the website. Please go buy one today. They are awesome. You won't forget it. And by the way, you don't have to iron or dry clean them. You just hang them up. They are good to go. On to rumor number 6. Is Michigan the 6th most likely college football playoff team? Well, the gambling odds are out, baby. And we use BetDSI here at Chat Sports. Use promo code CAM120. But the Michigan is now the 6th most likely team to be in the college football playoff. We're giving you 2 Harbaugh head because this isn't a fact by any means. This isn't likely. It's just someone's opinion. People are talking. So the list kind of goes like this. So Alabama, clearly #1 team in the country, #1 in the coaches poll that came out yesterday. Most likely, they are better. They are 3-1 odds, meaning if you got to put up $300 just to win one. So they are 3 times as likely to make the playoff as not make it. Clemson a little more than likely to not make it. Looks like those 2 teams are clearly, obviously, the class of the ACC, SEC. Ohio State, Georgia, Washington coming around the bend here. Michigan #6 plus 350. So if you want to put money on this, folks, $100, Michigan makes the playoff. You're getting your 100 back, winning $350. We see Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Auburn, Penn State, 4 Big Ten teams in the top 10 most likely to make the playoff. That is a pretty big number for the Big Ten or for all the playoff teams. Some rumors out there, some people out there think that Michigan could actually, or the Big Ten could actually have 2 teams in the playoff this year. I don't think that's as crazy as it was in the past with the SEC doing it just this past year. All right. Right tackle, left tackle. Are they the only weaknesses on Michigan's roster, folks? I'm giving this one a 3 Harbaugh heads. It is pretty likely, I've got a really good source in this one, that Ed Warinner, Michigan's offensive line coach, former Ohio State offensive coordinator, we'll talk about that a little later, that he just erupted in the past couple of days as they were kind of getting ready for fall camp, that he didn't think Juwan Bushell-Beatty, John Runyan were ready to be Big Ten level right tackle, left tackle, and we're going to talk about a freshman, a true freshman here in just a little bit that's going to go. We're going to toss it up right now. My bad on that one. Jalen Mayfield, as of Friday, is going to be taking reps with the one as a true freshman. The right tackle, James Hudson, is going to be splitting reps, but I think he has much more upside with Juwan Bushell-Beatty. James Hudson, you have a freshman Hudson, a redshirt freshman, a true freshman in Mayfield. So that is your offensive line that I've got it with the ones. I think you could say it's 1A or 1B for Hudson at the left tackle with Juwan Bushell-Beatty. But right tackle, left tackle, Bushell-Beatty and Runyan, the only weaknesses on the post-spring depth chart as starters. And it looks like those guys are going to lose their jobs. If I had to predict it, neither will start. Third or fourth game in, but I think Mayfield's going to be the starting guy against Notre Dame on September 1st. Next rumor is Ed Warinner grooming Jalen Mayfield. We kind of just talked about it right there, folks. I have got a really great source on this one. I'm giving it 3 Harbaugh heads that since Warner's been with Michigan, which is about 6 months or so far now, he has really taken Mayfield under his wing. He's asked Mayfield to come and visit as often as he can, and he's basically said, listen, Jalen, I watched your film. I see what you can do here at Michigan over the summer. You are my guy. All you've got to do is do everything I say. You're going to be starting for Michigan as a true freshman. You're going to have every opportunity. I don't think the talent that we have here right now is Big Ten, all Big Ten caliber, and you are a future all Big Ten lineman. Let's get you in the lineup right now. So 3 Harbaugh heads in this one. Have a really great source on it. Jalen Mayfield, folks, could be the surprise of the season for the University of Michigan because of Ed Warinner grooming him to be a great next right tackle. Maybe I'll move to left tackle one day for Michigan, and Michigan having a major weakness in Bushell-Beatty and John Runyan Jr. All right, so talking about that, is Mayfield going to be named starter? Oh, I like this rumor a lot, folks. I am giving this one a 3 Harbaugh heads. Jalen Mayfield. We're talking about in this whole segment 6, 7, 8, 9 of the rumors. He is getting first team snaps with the University of Michigan. Fall camp started on Friday. So this is, I think, the biggest development of the spring. Of the fall so far. Obviously, coming out of spring, you had John Runyan as the starting right tackle. I changed my depth chart. If you follow me on Facebook, right there, James Yoder, Michigan Football on Facebook, I put this out there just a couple days ago. I had Mayfield as my starting right tackle, and now we're talking about it here on the Michigan Football Report. Jalen Mayfield, true freshman, once committed to Minnesota, flipped to Michigan. Who is the offensive line coach when he committed to Minnesota? Ed Warinner, Michigan's offensive line coach. So you see the connection there. Warinner loves this young man, 6'5", about 275 pounds. By the time season comes around, I think he's going to be up to about 290 or so. Top 300 player overall in the 2018 recruiting class. True freshman, likely to get the starting job for Michigan September 1st. All right, want to throw it to our sponsor, Mizzen & Main, the spiffiest shirts out there, the best dress shirts in the world. This commercial went viral, and I want to show it to you guys here. Let me toss it to Mizzen & Main. Comfortable.af is the website. Yes, that's the website, www.comfortable.af, because these shirts are comfortable as F, ladies and gentlemen. Next story, the second biggest story in all of college football, is Urban Meyer going to get fired? It looked pretty likely Wednesday, looked pretty likely Thursday. It is now Saturday, okay? 2 Harbaugh heads on this one, unless they make some sort of announcement, in the days. I think it's just 2 Harbaugh heads. I think this one's going to play out for a couple weeks. I don't think it is as likely as people thought when this news first broke throughout this past week. And why is this? I've been doing a little digging. I've been talking to some people. There is some credibility concerns with Zach Smith, the former Ohio State wide receivers coach, with his wife. I'm not saying I know anything about this. I am saying there's people out there saying that things have been overblown, that maybe Urban Meyer knew about a marital spout and it wasn't as potentially serious as it was played out in the media. I don't have any information on this, but I don't think it's as likely as everyone is saying. I actually think it is probably more likely that he is getting a 3 or 4 game suspension than he gets outright fired. But we're putting his 2 Harbaugh heads. People are talking. I don't think that Urban Meyer should be, hung from Schembechler Hall for being the worst guy ever, because technically, let's just not forget, he didn't actually do anything to harm someone. Someone else did on his staff. So 2 Harbaugh heads. Want to know from you guys, should Urban Meyer be fired? Should he be removed from his position as the Ohio State head football coach for a member of his staff potentially having domestic violence against his wife? Urban knew about it. Maybe. Did he do anything about it? Did he cover it up? Uncertain. If that's the case, I think it's yes, should be fired. If it's not as not as big of a situation as being portrayed, remember, his wife didn't talk to anybody. Her friends, her family haven't come out and said, hey, we've got text evidence, we've got photo evidence. Just remember this, that Zach Smith was fired a couple weeks ago. This interview wasn't granted until after he was fired. I find that a little interesting. So I think there's more to the story we're going to find out through the next couple days into potentially the next couple weeks. So keep an eye out for this one. All right. Did an Ohio State quarterback take a shot at Urban Meyer? Well, this is a pretty interesting one. Cardale Jones, Ohio State's national championship winning quarterback from the 2014 season. Remember him coming in, winning those last 3 games after JT Barrett got hurt against Michigan. He took a shot at Urban Meyer, I believe. That's why I'm going to give it 2 Harbaugh heads. He didn't mention Urban Meyer by name, but take a look at this one. Funny how life works. This is right after Urban Meyer was put on administrative paid leave from Ohio State University just in the past few days. Cardale Jones, is there some bad blood between these guys? You have to think there potentially could be. Urban Meyer convinced Cardale Jones to come back for what would have been his redshirt junior year in 2015, made him the starter, but by mid-year, he pulled him, put JT Barrett in. Just think about this. As starting quarterback, Cardale Jones never lost a game for Ohio State, yet he still got benched. JT Barrett went in, eventually lost to Michigan State, didn't make the college football playoff when they were ranked number 1 to come into that 2015 season. We all remember the run Cardale Jones on. Is he salty for coming back and getting benched in his junior year, ultimately not being drafted as high as potentially he could have been after that 3-game run to end the 2014 season? On to rumor number 12 is the Ohio State scandal is going to impact a 5-star recruit that Michigan and Ohio State are both going after. 2 Harbaugh heads on this one. A lot of speculation that Zach Harrison, who delayed earlier this week, his decision was going to decide in the month of August around his birthday. He's going to delay it till future notice. Will the uncertainty of Ohio State lead him to choosing Michigan, maybe lead him to choosing Penn State? He is right now torn between Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. This is a top 5 player in the country, plays high school football, lives 20 miles outside of Columbus, outside of Ohio Stadium, and Michigan has been on him like crazy. Some of the new coaches from Ohio have been all over him, trying to get him to commit to Michigan. I think the longer this one goes, it is better for the University of Michigan. Obviously, he could look at Penn State as well. But the more Ohio State has uncertainty, if they even lose their head coach, Urban Meyer, and if they have an interim, I think that plays very well for Michigan to land one of the top 5 players in the country. Obviously, that doesn't happen very often. We see in the last 15 years, Michigan's only had 5 players ranked in the top 5 in their recruiting class commit and play at the University of Michigan. Some of the biggest names, obviously, other than Ryan Mallett, that Michigan has had as football players in that time period. So big-time story. Maybe Ohio State's loss is Michigan's gain. We don't want to take advantage of the situation, but if this happens, Zach Harrison would be a huge get for the University of Michigan. All right, rumor number 13, ladies and gentlemen, this is a James Yoder exclusive. That's why I'm putting it right in the middle of the show, so only the diehard fans get this one. FACK, Michigan is going into fall camp. Fall camp started yesterday on Friday. running 50% of plays out of shotgun this season is the goal for the University of Michigan football team, which would be a major dramatic shift of their offensive philosophy under Jim Harbaugh. 50% of the plays would almost mean every time they throw, they've got to be out of shotgun, and they've got to have a new set of running plays out of shotgun. You haven't seen Michigan run a ton out of shotgun in the post-Denard Robinson, Devin Gardner era. So Jake Rudock, of course, Wilton Spates, Brandon Peters, these guys aren't taking the ball out of shotgun, handing it off. If they're handing it off, it's out of I formation. So this is a Chat Sports exclusive brought to you by the Michigan Football Report. For Harbaugh heads, Michigan's goal throughout this fall camp is to get the offense humming enough they can take 50% or more of the plays out of shotgun in the 2018 season. A dramatic turn of events for the offense for the University of Michigan that, frankly, last season was an absolute disaster and was an embarrassment to Jim Harbaugh's coaching ability. So we see the starting quarterbacks there for the University of Michigan. We've got a couple. We got Devin Gardner, a guy who could run that. But we've had 4 slower, less athletic guys there. Shea Patterson bringing a different style of offense to Michigan, and Michigan is going to change their offensive philosophy to suit his skill set. So keep an eye on this one. I am calling it for Harbaugh heads. John O'Corn, is he upset with the fans? Some people were mad as hell as John O'Corn, saying he was taking a shot at Jim Harbaugh after Harbaugh's don't eat chicken comments. He liked a few tweets from Jamel Hill. I'm giving this one for Harbaugh heads, FACK. I thought when it first came out that John O'Corn didn't really seem to be taking a shot at Harbaugh. I said, hey, this has got to be a shot at the fans. He's not going to go after Harbaugh on this one. And O'Corn kind of backed it up. He comes back and says, it's not the pro. First of all, he said, it's not the program of the school that we don't like. This made people go crazy. He's taking a shot at Harbaugh. Harbaugh gave you a chance. Harbaugh was your only opportunity to play big-time college football. Well, he comes back the next day with this tweet. My earlier tweet had nothing to do with Coach Jim Harbaugh, and so that is why it is pretty obvious. It is not Jim Harbaugh that John O'Corn was mad. It is the fans. And he goes, and by the looks of my mentions, which is from the fans, I think I proved my point. So there you have it, John O'Corn, and maybe it's within his right to do so. Fans were brutal to O'Corn when he got in the game, especially in the game against Ohio State where he made some atrocious throws that maybe cost Michigan the game. So who is John O'Corn side with? I said it's FACK, it's the fans. I want to know from you guys, is it Harbaugh? Type 1 in the comments. Is it the fans? Type 2. If it's both, if it's Harbaugh and the fans, if it's everything other than the maize and blue and the Michigan winged helmet, press 3. If it's Harbaugh and it's the fans that root on the Michigan football team, in the comments now. I'm going to get in there with you here in just a moment. All right, rumor number 15. We are humming along in this bad boy. Did O'Corn tell Shea Patterson when he visited in December, hey, don't come to Michigan. These fans are brutal. These fans are going to make your life a living hell. It's going to be misery. This one is fake news. This is one perpetrated by some bloggers and message board guys to take further shots at John O'Corn, thinking he was talking trash about Jim Harbaugh. But this one, folks, is fake news. I know for a fact that O'Corn did not tell Shea to not come. He did not tell him to come, and that he was supportive of him coming to the University of Michigan, didn't give any negative feedback. So if you see this one out there, just know that this one is fake news. John O'Corn was not trashing Michigan to Shea Patterson in any means. All right, rumor number 16, ladies and gentlemen, is Ed Warinner facing scrutiny. I put this out on my Facebook page, tweeted a link to it at James T. Yoder on Twitter, at Chat Sports on Twitter. You should go ahead and follow us. 3 Harbaugh heads. I got a word a couple days ago that said that Ed Warinner, who used to be Zach Smith, the Ohio State ousted wide receivers coach with domestic violence allegations, that there's going to be media, pitchforks coming after Ed Warinner and Tom Herman, although Herman wasn't on staff in 2015, because they were his direct supervisors as offensive coordinator when they were offensive coordinators at Ohio State. Zach Smith reported directly to him, and when you see quotes like "every coach's wife knew," I talked to all the coach's wife. That includes Warinner, that includes Herman. This just wasn't going on a one-time basis. So 3 Harbaugh heads in this one. I got word that hey, once the Urban Meyer situation plays out, don't be surprised if Ed Warinner is the next target, because he was Smith's direct boss for a few years there at Ohio State. So 3 Harbaugh heads in this one. Now, if Urban Meyer leaves the program, resigns, if they don't have to put a deep investigation, start looking into text messages, emails, phone calls, all that stuff, Ed Warinner may be safe and probably will be safe. But if there's an investigation, Ed Warinner could be facing some scrutiny. There may be an article coming out in the coming weeks about his knowledge of Zach Smith. So keep an eye out on that one. Rumor number 17, did Braylon Edwards take another shot at John O'Korn? So this is 3 Harbaugh heads, and Braylon Edwards has not held back his disdain maybe for John O'Korn in the past. During the Ohio State game, Wisconsin game, he was taking shots at O'Korn when he was on field. But you want to take a look at this tweet coming up. He says, crazy how the history books are creating that much roundtable discussion. Leave your social media alone and worry about watching a real college transfer. That is a direct shot, in my opinion, at John O'Korn. Real college transfer being, of course, Shea Patterson he's taking a shot at John O'Korn there and saying, baby, he's a fake college transfer. So he didn't mention O'Korn by name here, but that is a pretty obvious look at Braylon Edwards taking a shot at John O'Korn. As I mentioned, he has taken shots at him in the past, said this guy doesn't even deserve to be on scholarship in the Ohio State and the Wisconsin game. So that Braylon Edwards coming at John O'Korn when he thinks O'Korn is dissing Michigan. We're going to toss up these tweets from Braylon Edwards and John O'Korn from this past fall when John O'Korn was thrust into the starting spotlight after Brandon Peters went down with injury. So you see the top one, WTF, approved the scholarship. Take a look at these Braylon Edwards, 2 tweets there. Right below it, John O'Korn's response. So, John O'Korn, Braylon Edwards going out of it. One is a Michigan legend. The other one is a guy who couldn't complete a 12-yard pass across the middle to a wide-open running back that could have potentially won Michigan the 2017 Michigan-Ohio State game in Ann Arbor that they have, of course, ultimately lost. That is the story there. All right, folks, next story. This is a pretty interesting one. We're going to tease you with some wording in there. Does Harbaugh want Urban Meyer fired? Did he put it out there on social media, on Instagram, that if you defend people, if you cover up domestic violence, that you should be fired? Well, I am giving this one FACK, folks. This is a big time story potentially, right? FACK. Well, it is not Jim Harbaugh. It is in fact his son James Harbaugh, who is coming into his sophomore year at the University of Michigan. James Harbaugh, not involved in football anyway, but this is what he put on his Instagram story, basically paraphrasing. He is, hey, you teach youth, you can't be complicit with this domestic violence, and you're not getting any sympathy, and you need to be fired no matter what your accomplishments are. Someone pointed out to me, hey, maybe he's talking about Ed Warinner there. I don't think that's true, but James Harbaugh, if you're taking the nickname there, you would call him Jim Harbaugh also, but a Harbaugh son. He is not Jay Harbaugh. This is the Michigan running backs coach. This is James Harbaugh, his second oldest son, that says, you got to fire Urban Meyer, basically. FACK, that came out right when the allegations against Urban Meyer covering up potential domestic violence with an assistant coach came out. James Harbaugh taking a shot, FACK, at Urban Meyer. Rumor number 19 was the barbecue at the Big House last weekend. Was it a success? Well, a lot of these recruiting analysts are saying how amazing it was. All the recruits loved it, etc., but they got no commitments. Nobody flipped from another school. 2 Harbaugh heads. We're going to give this one People Are Talking. Now, there is a Florida State defensive end that has been rumored to flip to Michigan. There is a cornerback who is committed to Virginia Tech that is rumored to flip to Michigan, but they didn't actually do it. They didn't actually publicly announce it. We see one of the guys, Mike Sainristol, is the Virginia Tech commitment. And then, of course, we've got defensive end Mike Morris, a little higher-ranked recruit, 4-star player committed to Florida State. Those are the rumored flips, so keep an eye out for those 2. But I think this one, 2 Harbaugh heads, folks. I don't know if it's necessarily a big weekend if you don't get any major. If one of these 5-star guys would have committed, like Zach Harrison, maybe it'd have been a 3 or 4-star that it was a wild success. But as of now, 2 Harbaugh heads, does its job, doesn't get anybody to change their line of thinking where they're going to school in their next year. All right, number 20. Can you believe we're at 20 already? Is Michigan in the mix for a 4-star running back in the 2020 class? Well, I'm giving this one a 2 Harbaugh heads. People are talking. He visited Michigan recently. He is interested in the University of Michigan, but this is a 2020 player. He's not looking to commit, but the man's name is Mookie Cooper. And he said that, look, Michigan kind of blew him away. He loves what he sees out of Jim Harbaugh. He said, Michigan is definitely a school I am interested in. Interested doesn't necessarily mean committing. Interested doesn't mean necessarily mean he's headed there. But keep an eye out for Mookie Smith. Mookie Cooper. He is going to be a player that Michigan is going to be in on for the 2020 class, about to start his junior year in high school. All right. On to rumor number 21. This is not necessarily on the current Michigan football team. This is on past Michigan football players. Chris Wormley, Jake Butt, are they about to break out, have a breakout season? ESPN Insider listed their top breakout players for the NFL this year. Listed Butt, listed Wormley. We all know Jake Butt hasn't been able to get back in the field after that ACL injury in the Orange Bowl after the 2016 season. So people are talking Butt and Wormley. ESPN saying look out for these guys to have breakout seasons in 2018 for their respective teams. Butt with the Denver Broncos, and he has an opportunity to be a big-time NFL player in my opinion. So keep an eye out for this one. Two Harbaugh heads. People are talking Chris Wormley, Jake Butt making a big-time impact in the NFL this year if they live up to that billing from ESPN Insider. Want to remind everybody, follow Chat Sports on YouTube, the best Michigan football coverage. If you like all college football, NBA, NFL, Chat Sports is the place to go, the number one sports channel on YouTube. Everyone is subscribing to Chat Sports. Get us to that 100,000 subscriber goal, and we can do it with you. Want to thank everyone for watching the Michigan Football Report. Toss in that URL. It'll direct you right to the Michigan Football Report playlist on YouTube. I am James Yoder, the king of Michigan football. I know everyone loves the nickname. Follow me on Twitter at James T. Yoder, and we will see you next week.